Under the unforgiving glare of the Boston General Hospital ER, Jake Martinez sat frozen, his calloused hands stained with his daughter's blood trembling against his face. He wasn't just a construction worker tonight. He was a desperate father caught in a nightmare. What happened to little Sophia, and why was the only person who could help refusing to answer the phone? What unfolds next will shake your heart. His construction uniform bore traces of the accident that sent 8-year-old Sophia to surgery. The divorce papers clearly state joint medical decision-making. The nurse explained firmly, "Without your ex-wife's consent, we cannot proceed with the surgery." Jake's voice cracked as he tried calling Carmen again, only to be sent straight to voicemail like the previous 15 calls. Then, a delicate hand wearing a diamond ring gently touched his shoulder. "I know how that feels," said the blonde woman in the expensive black coat. Sitting alone in the hospital with no one to help. A man with rough hands and a broken heart. A woman with unlimited wealth but an empty penthouse apartment. Follow this story about how true love can overcome all social barriers and build a family from the broken pieces of each other's lives. Jake Martinez is a 34-year-old construction worker in Boston, Massachusetts, who has been raising his daughter Sophia alone since she was 6. Every morning, he wakes up at 500, prepares a simple but nutritious breakfast, and wakes Sophia by singing the Spanish lullabies his mother once sang to him. Their small apartment in a modest complex in Dorchester is where neighbors know the story of the young father who overcame adversity to care for his little girl. Jake works for Rodriguez Construction, known as the first to arrive and the last to leave. His rough hands tell the story of extra hours worked to afford the piano lessons Sophia loves. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, he leaves the construction site early, cleans the dirt off in a public restroom, and takes Sophia to her class at the Boston Community Music Center. He sits on an old wooden chair, back straight, full of pride as he listens to his daughter play simple melodies. 2 years ago, Carmen, Jake's ex-wife and Sophia's mother, left them after a fight over her addiction. Jake came home to find the apartment empty, a short note, and Sophia crying on the bed. "Am I not good enough for Mom to stay?" "Dad," that question broke Jake's heart. Since then, he has spent every free moment proving to his daughter that she is the center of his world. Every night, Jake reads stories to Sophia in English mixed with Spanish. Even as his eyes grow heavy with exhaustion, he learns to cook her favorite foods from online videos, mends clothes when they tear, and attends every school event, even if it means sacrificing overtime pay. His construction site friends often tease him about Mrs. Rodriguez from the first floor, a 55-year-old widow who always finds reasons to call Jake down to fix little things. Jake politely declines every invitation to hang out or go on dates. "Sophia needs me," he would say. But deep down, Jake feared being hurt again. That fateful Friday evening, Jake picked up Sophia after her piano lesson. They stopped at the corner store to buy ingredients for weekend pizza, a small ritual they both cherished. As their car crossed the intersection at Dorchester Avenue, a drunk driver in an SUV crashed into them at high speed. Jake's world flipped upside down when he woke to blaring ambulance sirens and saw Sophia unconscious, blood from her head wound soaking through her school uniform. Hours later, when doctors explained Sophia needed immediate surgery, Jake knew that without Carmen's signature, they couldn't proceed. His daughter was bleeding internally, and the woman who had left them was unreachable at some rehab center in Denver. Victoria Sterling, 38, is the widow of David Sterling, founder of Sterling Technologies, one of New England's largest software companies. 6 months ago, David died in a climbing accident in Colorado, leaving Victoria with a fortune exceeding $2 billion and an empty penthouse overlooking Boston Harbor. Every morning, Victoria wakes up in the spacious 90-square-meter bedroom designed by a famous architect. She drinks expensive Ethiopian coffee brewed by her butler while gazing at the city through the Florida-style skylight. As a successful businesswoman with an MBA from Northwestern, Victoria manages the Sterling Fund, a charity focused on improving pediatric health care. Behind the perfect exterior and luxurious life, Victoria felt incredibly lonely. She and David had tried for years to have a child without success. They were in the process of adopting when the accident happened. Now, Victoria lives in a world where board meetings and charity events can't fill the emptiness in her heart. That Friday night, Victoria was at Boston General Hospital for the opening of a new pediatric ward funded by the Sterling Foundation. Instead of going home after the ceremony, she wandered the hospital halls, feeling a strange connection to the place. 6 months earlier, she had sat in a similar waiting room in Denver, signing David's organ donation papers in complete loneliness. As Victoria passed the emergency room, she overheard a heated argument. A man in a blood-stained construction uniform was pleading with a nurse to allow surgery for his daughter. Carmen is at some rehab center in Denver. I can't reach her. And Sophia is dying. Victoria stopped. The mention of Denver and the desperation in the man's voice caught her attention. She saw Jake collapse onto a plastic chair, burying his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. No one paid him any attention. Just an ordinary man in a busy hospital. Victoria felt an invisible bond with this man. The same pain, the same helplessness facing a complex medical system, instead of walking away like everyone else. A passerby. Victoria sat down on the chair next to Jake. I overheard your conversation with the nurse, she said softly. Your daughter needs surgery. Jake looked up, eyes red and doubtful. Victoria didn't look like anyone he'd ever met in his neighborhood, from her cashmere coat to her Italian leather shoes. Sorry, I don't have time for this, Jake began. But Victoria interrupted. You're not alone anymore, she said, her voice low and sure. 6 months ago, I sat on a chair just like this, feeling completely helpless when my husband died. No one sat with me. No one offered help. I couldn't save David, but maybe I can help your daughter. Jake stared at this stranger, not understanding why she cared. But when Victoria pulled out her phone and called her personal lawyer, he began to feel a faint glimmer of hope. After Sophia's successful surgery, Jake thought he would never see Victoria Sterling again. But 3 days later, while sitting by Sophia's hospital bed, Victoria appeared with a teddy bear and a tote bag. She came not as a donor or hospital helper, but as someone who truly cared about Sophia's recovery. You like piano, don't you? Victoria asked Sophia when she saw a music book among the girls' things. Sophia's eyes lit up. Yes, Dad said I have talent. Victoria smiled. I used to play piano when I was little too. Maybe when you feel better, we can play together. The brief initial visits gradually grew longer. Victoria brought an iPad so Sophia could keep up with schoolwork while hospitalized. She read books to the girl when Jake had to work. Occasionally, Jake came back to find them playing word games or laughing over a story. After Sophia was discharged, Jake was surprised when Victoria messaged to check, how is she today? Is she remembering her physical therapy exercises? From simple texts to video calls helping Sophia with homework, Victoria gradually became an essential part of their daily lives. One Tuesday evening, when Jake couldn't take Sophia to her first piano lesson after the accident because he had to work late, Victoria volunteered to take her. When Jake returned to the apartment, he found Victoria and Sophia in the kitchen, both wearing aprons and baking cookies. Flour scattered everywhere. We decided to bake cookies to celebrate the successful piano lesson, Victoria explained, looking a bit embarrassed as she glanced around the messy kitchen. Jake stood at the door, watching the woman he knew from a luxury building in Back Bay carefully guide Sophia on how to fold cookie dough. There was something gentle and familiar in that moment, as if Victoria truly belonged in their small kitchen. Gradually, Victoria began having dinner with them 2 or 3 times a week. Jake taught her how to cook traditional Mexican dishes, while Victoria shared stories about her world travels. Sophia sat between them, her eyes lighting up as she listened to tales of faraway places she had only seen in textbooks. Why don't you stay after dinner and watch a movie with us one evening? Sophia asked hopefully. Jake was about to interrupt, but Victoria smiled. I'd really like that. They sat on the old sofa, Sophia nestled between them, wrapped in a blanket, watching an animated movie Victoria had never seen before. As Sophia fell asleep, her head rested on Victoria's shoulder. Jake realized it had been a long time since he felt this peaceful. One Sunday, Victoria invited them to her apartment. Sophia was overwhelmed by the city view, while Jake felt uncomfortable among the expensive furniture. This place doesn't feel like home at all, Victoria admitted, noticing Jake's expression. That's why I like coming to your place better. That night, while Sophia slept in the elegant guest bedroom, Jake and Victoria sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Why did she leave? Victoria asked softly, referring to Carmen. Jake was silent for a moment, then shared about his failed marriage, Carmen's addiction, and his fear of not being good enough. "You're a wonderful father, Jake," Victoria said, her eyes sparkling under the moonlight. "Sophia is lucky to have you." When their fingers accidentally touched the railing, neither quickly withdrew. 3 months after the accident, the relationship between Jake, Sophia, and Victoria had grown into something like a family. Victoria helped Sophia with her homework. Jake taught Victoria how to fix a leaking faucet, and all three of them. They cooked together, watched movies, and even went on weekend picnics at Boston Common. One evening, when Jake accidentally found a folder Marcus had mistakenly included with the papers for his small construction company, a project Victoria had encouraged him to pursue, his world fell apart. Inside were Sophia's hospital bills, all fully paid, totaling $67,000. Jake went to Victoria's apartment, holding the stack of papers, anger and hurt spreading through his chest. "You paid all these bills without telling me?" he asked. Throwing the papers onto her glass coffee table, Victoria stood there, her wine glass half frozen as it hovered near her lips. "Jake, I can explain. $67,000. You paid $67,000 behind my back." "What else? What else have you secretly paid for Sophia's piano lessons, her new soccer cleats, groceries I thought I'd buy for our dinners?" "Jake, please sit down. Let me explain," Victoria pleaded, but Jake couldn't hear her. Blood rushed to his ears. "I'm not your charity case. Victoria, I'm not a poor immigrant you can save to make yourself feel better about your husband's death." Victoria stepped back as if slapped. "It's not like that." "Then what is it? Because from where I stand, it looks like you've treated Sophia and me like a personal comfort project. You're ridiculous." Victoria set down her wine glass, her hands trembling. "I care about you, about both of you. Do you care about us? Or do you care about how we make you feel needed?" Jake paced, his work boots clattering loudly on her polished floor. "God, I was so stupid. I really thought you could do something. Jake, talk to me. I thought you loved me." The words came out broken, as if they pained him. "Not my circumstances? Not my sweet child? Not the way you make me feel like Mother Teresa?" Tears rolled down Victoria's face. "I love you. Both of you. No, I like the idea of us. The poor single dad and his grateful daughter. It makes you feel good about yourself, doesn't it? Like you're not just some rich widower buying a family." "Stop." Victoria's voice was almost a whisper. "Why? Because it's the truth." Jake took his jacket from her couch. "You should know this is too good to be true. People like you don't love people like me unless there's something in it for them. People like me." Victoria's voice grew cold. "Exactly what does that mean? The rich? People who think money can solve everything. People who can't tell the difference between charity and love." Victoria stood up, clenching her fists. "Do you want to know what people like me are really like? Jake, we are the ones who watch our husbands die and have no one by our side in the hospital. We are the ones who have more money than we know what to do with and no family to spend it on. We are the ones who meet a man and his daughter at the worst moment of their lives, and for the first time in months, remember what it feels like to be needed for something other than our bank accounts. So why didn't you tell me about the bills? Because I knew you'd react exactly like this." Victoria raised her hand. "I knew you'd be too proud to accept help. Even that help means nothing to me but means everything to you. The problem isn't pride, Victoria. The problem is trust. How can I trust you when you've lied to me for months? I didn't lie. I was protecting you. You were controlling." Jake's voice was now very quiet, somehow worse than when he shouted, like Carmen always did, making decisions for me, telling me what's best for me, acting like I can't take care of my own family. Victoria stepped back. "I'm nothing like your ex-wife." "You're right. Carmen never had $67,000 to throw around, but the result was the same. In the end, I felt less than Jake. That's not what I wanted. I know what you want to do. You want to fix everything like you always do. But some things can't be fixed with money. Victoria, some things have to be earned." Jake headed toward the door, then stopped. I need time to think about this. About us. What does that mean? It means I don't know if I can be with someone who doesn't trust me enough to tell me the truth, even if the truth is she's trying to help me. After Jake left, Victoria slumped into the chair and cried harder than she had since David's funeral. She had tried to protect Jake's pride, to show him she cared, to become part of their family. Instead, she destroyed the best thing that had happened to her since losing David. Her phone rang at 6 a.m. The next morning, Marcus's name appeared on the screen. Victoria. I have news, he said without preamble. Carmen Martinez just filed for emergency custody of Sophia. She claims Jake is an unfit father and has exploited their daughter's health condition for profit. Victoria's blood ran cold. What, she hired Rebecca Walsh? She's very good. Victoria, really good. And she has evidence of Jake's financial troubles, including hospital bills mysteriously paid by a third party. The bills I paid, the bills you paid. Walsh is arguing that Jake basically took advantage of his relationship with you to make money, using Sophia as bait to lure a wealthy woman. She calls it emotional fraud. Victoria felt nauseous. Her effort to help Jake had now fueled his ex-wife's drive to take Sophia away from him. There's more, Marcus continued. Carmen completed her rehab program last month. She now has a clean record, a steady job in Denver, and she claims she wants to provide Sophia with a stable home away from Jake's reckless lifestyle. This is my fault, Victoria whispered. Victoria, you tried to help. I destroyed them. Marcus, I destroyed the only real family I ever had because I couldn't let Jake handle his own problems. What do you want me to do? Victoria looked out the window of her penthouse apartment down at the city below, thinking about the proud look on Jake's face when he found out her secret, thinking about Sophia's laughter, thinking about the family she had in those perfect few months. Everything. She finally said, I want you to do everything possible to keep Sophia with her father. I don't care about the cost. Victoria, with her relationship to Jake, it's probably best if she stays out of this legal battle. Her involvement could make things worse for him. Victoria closed her eyes. Marcus was right. The best thing she could do for Jake and Sophia now was to stay completely out of their way. But that didn't mean she would let Carmen steal Sophia from the father who loved her more than life itself. Schedule a meeting with Rebecca Walsh. Victoria said it was time for Carmen Martinez to understand she wasn't the only one who could play hardball. The custody hearing began a week later. Carmen sat at the plaintiff's table looking clean and professional in a navy suit. Jake sat with Marcus, trying not to look at the gallery where Victoria was supposed to be. She wasn't there. Your Honor, Walsh began. My client is seeking emergency custody of daughter Sophia Martinez due to recent exploitation by the father and unstable living conditions. Jake clenched his fist as Walsh described him as an opportunistic gold digger who exploited Sophia's medical emergency to manipulate a wealthy widow. She presented evidence of unpaid bills, his modest apartment, and his lack of higher education. Mr. Martinez created an unhealthy environment where his daughter was exposed to inappropriate adult relationships based on financial transactions rather than genuine affection. Walsh continued. Sophia needs stability, not a father who parades her before wealthy strangers for personal gain. When it was Marcus's turn, he did his best to defend Jake's character and parenting. Neighbors testified to Jake's dedication to Sophia. Her teachers spoke of her academic progress. But without Victoria's resources, their case seemed weak. On the second day of the hearing, a whisper spread through the courtroom as Victoria Sterling entered. She wore a simple black dress. Her blonde hair was tied back. For the first time since their battle, Jake looked directly at her. She looked tired, as if she hadn't slept. Ms. Sterling, Marcus began, please tell the court about your relationship with Mr. Martinez and his daughter. Victoria's voice was steady and clear. I met Jake at the worst time in his life when Sophia was fighting for her life after a car accident. I witnessed him do everything a devoted father would do, refusing to leave her side, fighting for her medical care, putting her needs above his own comfort and pride. And what was the nature of your financial support for the Martinez family? I helped pay medical bills because I could, and because Sophia deserved the best care possible. Jake never asked for money. He never asked for anything except the right to care for his daughter. Walsh stood to cross-examine. Ms. Sterling, isn't it true that you are grieving the recent death of your husband and are seeking to fill that emotional void by becoming involved with the Martinez family? Victoria was silent for a moment. I am grieving. Yes, but Jake and Sophia are not filling a void. They have helped me remember what it feels like to be part of a family again. There's a difference. A family you can buy your way into. No, Victoria said firmly. A family that welcomed me because Jake Martinez is a good man who raised a wonderful daughter. Money has nothing to do with the love I have for them. The love seemed to end when he and Mr. Martinez were no longer together. Victoria glanced at Jake and saw tears in his eyes. Our relationship ended because I made decisions for Jake without consulting him, because I let my resources be a wall between us instead of a bridge. That was my failure, not his. After Victoria resigned, she didn't return to the courtroom. Jake watched her leave and felt something break inside his chest. As the hearing continued, Carmen's mother took the stand next, but instead of supporting her daughter, she shocked everyone. Your Honor, I love Carmen, but she is not ready to be Sophia's primary parent. She's been clean for 3 months, and that's wonderful. But Sophia needs consistency. She needs her father, who has never wavered in his dedication to her. Judge Morrison took a break to consider. Jake sat in the hallway with Sophia, both of them exhausted. Marcus was pacing back and forth. On the phone, Carmen sat across the hall with her lawyer. Dad, Sophia whispered. If I have to live with Mom, will you come visit me? Jake pulled her close. You're not going anywhere, sweetheart. We'll be okay. Promise me. Jake looked down at his daughter's trusting face and promised he prayed he could keep that promise. The recess. 20 minutes later, they were called back into the courtroom. Judge Morrison looked serious as he shuffled his papers. This case raises a tough question about what truly constitutes a child's best interest, he began. Jake held his breath. However, before I deliver my decision, Ms. Sterling has requested to present an additional matter that may affect this case. Victoria stood up from the back of the courtroom. Jake looked at her confused. Your Honor, Victoria said, stepping forward, I want to officially petition this court to adopt Sophia Martinez as my daughter, with the full consent and support of Jake Martinez. The courtroom erupted. Carmen's lawyer stood to object. Marcus looked stunned. Furthermore, Victoria continued, her voice rising above the chaos, Mr. Martinez and I intend to marry, making Sophia a legal and permanent part of a stable 2-parent family. Judge Morrison banged his gavel to restore order. Ms. Sterling, this is highly unusual. Sir, I know this is highly unusual, but Sophia has become my daughter in every way possible. I love her as if she were my own, and I love her father not for money or convenience, but because they are my family. Jake slowly stood up. Victoria, what are you doing? She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. I'm fighting for my family. Jake, the way I should have from the beginning. Not with money, but with love. Judge Morrison studied all of them for a long moment. Mr. Martinez, do you consent to Ms. Sterling's adoption petition? Jake looked at Victoria. This amazing woman who just put herself and her reputation on the line for him and Sophia. Yes, Your Honor, I consent. What about the proposal? I consent to that too, Jake said, his voice choking up. If she still wants me after I've been such a fool. Victoria smiled through her tears. That's right. Sophia jumped up from her seat. Does this mean Victoria will really become my mom? Judge Morrison actually smiled. Yes. Young lady, it depends on a few factors, but I must say, this is the most interesting custody case I've presided over in 20 years. 6 months later, Jake stood at the altar of Boston General Hospital Chapel, watching Victoria walk down the aisle in a simple white dress. Sophia skipped beside her, carrying both rings in a small velvet box and grinning as if she had planned the whole thing herself. You look beautiful, Jake whispered as Victoria approached him. You cleaned up pretty well yourself, she whispered back, adjusting his tie. The ceremony was simple but perfect. Jake's construction team sat next to Victoria's business associates. Marcus Webb wiped tears with a handkerchief. Carmen sat in the back row with her mother, both of them crying, happy tears. Jake realized in surprise. After they exchanged rings and kissed, Sophia wrapped her arms around both of them. Finally, now we're officially a family. The reception was held at their new home, not Victoria's penthouse or Jake's apartment, but a house they had chosen together in Sophia's school district. The backyard was filled with mismatched tables and chairs, string lights, and laughter in both English and Spanish. Speech, speech, Miguel shouted, raising a beer bottle. Jake reluctantly stood up. He wasn't good at giving speeches. You're a terrible speaker, Sophia corrected him, making everyone laugh. Thanks for the support, mija. Jake cleared his throat. A year ago, I thought my world was ending. Tonight, I know it's just beginning. Victoria, you didn't just save Sophia's life that night at the hospital. You saved mine too. You taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, and love isn't about perfection. It's about being willing to grow together. He turned to Sophia. And you, little one, you've taught both of us that family isn't just about blood or marriage certificates. Family is about choosing to love each other every day. Victoria stood up and took the microphone. I used to think I had it all figured out. Big house, successful business, perfect plans, but I was just living on autopilot. Jake and Sophia taught me the difference between existing and truly living. They showed me that the best things in life can't be planned or bought. They're built day by day with patience, love, and Dad's truly terrible jokes. My jokes aren't terrible. Jake objected. Honey, your jokes are awful, Victoria said, kissing his cheek. But I still like them anyway. As the evening was winding down, Carmen hesitantly approached them. Jake, Victoria, can I talk to you for a minute? They stepped aside while Sophia played with her cousins. I owe you both an apology, Carmen said quietly. I was angry and scared, and I tried to take Sophia away from the only home she's ever known. That was wrong. Carmen, Jake began. No, let me finish. You're a good father. Jake, you always have been. And so is Victoria. Sophia smiled talking about him. You can see how much he loves her. He wants to be part of her life. But now he knows her home is with both of you. Victoria reached out and hugged Carmen. The little girl was lucky to have a mother who loved her enough to want what's best, even when it's hard. 2 years later, Jake was standing in their backyard teaching a group of neighborhood kids how to build birdhouses through Victoria's community program. His construction company was thriving, and he had just hired his third full-time employee. Dad, you did it wrong, Sophia called from the outdoor dining table where she was helping sort screws and nails. At 10 years old, she had become his unofficial assistant and harshest critic. I built everything before you were born. Mija, Jake replied, but he still smiled. Yeah, but you never listen when I show you an easier way. Victoria stepped out of the house, one hand resting on her round belly, the other holding a glass of lemonade. 6 months pregnant, she glowed with happiness. How are your builders doing, she asked, setting the glass down. Your husband is being stubborn again, Sophia reported. Maybe he is. Right, Victoria laughed, carefully sitting down. Your little sister will be just as stubborn as you. Good. Someone needs to keep an eye on Dad when I go to college. Jake stepped forward, kissed Victoria's forehead, then knelt to talk to her belly. Did you hear that, sweetheart? Your big sister was ready to ditch us. I won't abandon you. You'll be a doctor. Remember, you'll fix broken people, just like Mom fixed our family. Victoria's eyes welled up with tears. She claimed it was pregnancy hormones. But Jake knew better. Even after 2 years, Sophia's comfortable acceptance of Victoria as her mother still moved them both deeply. When the sun sets, their backyard fills with the sounds of children playing, parents chatting, and the joyful chaos of a home full of love. Jake looks around at the life they've built. Messy, noisy, imperfect, and everything he never dared to dream of. This story isn't just about an emergency room or a life hanging in the balance. It's about the strength of a father's love and the surprising places compassion can come from. Jake Martinez, a man worn down by life, stood alone when the world turned its back. And yet, in his darkest hour, help didn't come from the legal system or even from family. It came from a stranger. A woman with a diamond ring, a guarded heart, and wounds of her own. Together, their paths collided not just through tragedy, but through a shared ache, the pain of loving deeply and losing everything. And maybe, just maybe, that's where healing begins, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments when someone chooses to stay. So, what can we take away from this? That love often arrives when we least expect it. That kindness doesn't always come wrapped in familiarity, and that sometimes two broken souls can make each other whole again. If Jake's unwavering fight for Sophia moved you, take a moment to show your support. What would you say to him now? Should he allow his heart to trust again? Not just for himself, but for his daughter, who's already begun to smile again. Share your thoughts below. Let's send a wave of encouragement to fathers like Jake, ordinary men doing extraordinary things out of love. And if stories like this one touch something deep inside you, don't forget to subscribe to Touching Tales Hub. This is where the broken are seen, the forgotten are heard, and love always finds a way. Your likes, comments, and shares help us bring more heartwarming stories to life and maybe help someone out there believe in hope again.